I never meant to become a necromancer. It was not something I dreamed of as a child or even as a young woman. But life has a way of twisting our paths, and sometimes the things we fear the most become the things we cherish the most. It all started when I was 9 years old, and I got lost in the dark wood. It was a foolish thing to do, I know, but I was curious and adventurous and bored of the same old stories and chores in our village. I wanted to see what was beyond the trees, what secrets and wonders they hid. So one day I snuck out of the house with a basket of bread and cheese and a knife for protection. I told myself I would only go a little way, just enough to catch a glimpse of something new. But the forest was deeper than I thought, and darker too. The sun barely reached the ground, and the shadows seemed to move and whisper. I tried to follow the trail of breadcrumbs I had left behind, but they were gone. Eaten by birds, or scattered by the wind, or maybe by something else. I wandered for hours, hoping to find a way out, or at least a friendly face. But all I saw were twisted trees and thorny bushes, and all I heard was strange noises and eerie howls. I was hungry, thirsty, tired and scared, and then I saw it. It was a man, or what used to be a man. He was pale and gaunt, with ragged clothes and rotting flesh. His eyes were sunken and dull, and his mouth hung open in a silent scream. He was a zombie, one of the undead creatures that plagued the lands beyond the Darkwood, and he was coming towards me. I screamed and ran, dropping my basket and my knife. I didn't care about anything else but getting away from that horror. But he was faster than me, and stronger too. He grabbed me by the arm and pulled me close. I felt his cold breath on my neck, his sharp teeth on my skin. I thought he was going to bite me, to infect me with his curse, to make me one of him. But he didn't. He stopped and looked at me with a strange expression. It was not hunger, or anger, or malice. It was something else, something like pity. He let go of me and backed away, shaking his head. He made a low moan, as if he was trying to say something. He pointed at my arm, where he had scratched me with his nails. There was blood on his fingers and on my sleeve. He looked at me again, with an even stranger expression. It was not pity any more. It was something else. Something like regret. He turned around and walked away, leaving me alone in the forest. I didn't understand what had happened. Why had he spared me? Why had he seemed sorry for hurting me? What did he want from me? I didn't know what to do. Should I follow him? Should I run away? Should I stay where I was? I decided to follow him. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was curiosity or gratitude or loneliness. Maybe it was fate. But I followed him through the dark woods, keeping a safe distance behind him. He didn't seem to notice me or care about me. He just walked aimlessly, stumbling over roots and rocks. He looked sad and lost. He looked like me. We walked for a long time, until the sun began to set and the shadows grew longer. We came to a clearing in the forest, where there was a small pond and a fallen log. He stopped there and sat down on the log, resting his head on his hands. He looked tired and weary. He looked like me. I approached him slowly, cautiously. He didn't react to my presence or my voice. "Hello," I said softly. He lifted his head and looked at me with his dull eyes. "Hello," he said hoarsely. His voice surprised me. It was not harsh or raspy, as I had expected from a zombie. It was low and gentle, almost human. "Who are you?" I asked him. He shook his head slowly. "I don't know," he said sadly. "You don't know your name?" He shook his head again. "I don't remember anything," he said mournfully. "Nothing?" "Nothing." H.E. lowered his head again and sighed. "How did you become like this?" I asked him curiously. He shrugged his shoulders weakly. "I don't know," he repeated. Maybe you were bitten by another zombie?" He nodded slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe you were cursed by a witch." He shook his head slightly. "No. Or maybe you were killed by a monster." He looked at me with a faint glimmer of recognition in his eyes. "Yes," he said softly. "Yes. Yes, I remember a monster, a big, black, hairy monster, with red eyes and sharp claws and teeth. It attacked me. It tore me apart. It killed me." He shuddered and closed his eyes. It hurt so much." He opened his eyes again and looked at me with a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. "But you You saved me." "Me?" "Yes, you. You brought me back. You gave me life. You are my friend." He smiled weakly and reached out his hand towards me. I was stunned. I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't save him. I didn't bring him back. I didn't give him life. I was just a little girl lost in the woods. But he seemed so sincere, so grateful, so happy. He seemed like he needed a friend. He seemed like me. I smiled back and took his hand in mine. It was cold and clammy, but it felt warm and comforting. He squeezed my hand gently and pulled me closer to him. He hugged me softly and whispered in my ear. "Thank you." I hugged him back and whispered in his ear, "You're welcome." We sat there on the log, holding each other, watching the stars come out in the sky. We felt safe and peaceful. We felt alive. We were friends. But our friendship didn't last long. The next day we were found by the villagers who had been searching for me. They saw us together, me and him, the living and the dead. They didn't understand. They didn't care. They thought he was a monster. They thought he was going to hurt me. They didn't listen to me when I tried to explain. They didn't listen to him when he tried to speak. They attacked him with torches and pitchforks and axes. They set him on fire and hacked him to pieces and buried him in a shallow grave. They killed him again. They killed my friend. I cried and screamed and fought them, but they were too many and too strong. They dragged me away from him, kicking and biting and scratching. They took me back to the village where they locked me up in a dark room. They called me a witch, a demon, a freak. They said I had consorted with the undead, that I had corrupted my soul, that I had doomed myself to hell. They said they would burn me at the stake. They said they would save me from myself, but they were wrong. They didn't save me from anything. They only made me hate them more. They only made me want to be with him more. They only made me want to be like him more. They only made me want to become a necromancer.